130 combat clashes were recorded along the front line yesterday. In the Pokrovsk sector, the defense forces repelled 22 assaults by Russian troops in the areas of Mirnorad, Rodinske and Udakhne. In the Kostiantynivka direction, the enemy carried out 19 attacks, attempting to advance toward Ivanopilia and Sofivka. The same number of attacks was recorded in the Hulyai-Pol direction near Mirna. Despite the pressure, Ukrainian defenders are systematically destroying the aggressor's potential. Over the past day, rocket forces and aviation struck a command post, an ammunition depot, and 3 artillery systems. Enemy losses in manpower amounted to 750 personnel. Let's examine the current situation in the Kramatorsk sector. We are joined live by Olha Kosenko, spokesperson for the 56th Separate Motorized Infantry Mariupol Brigade. Greetings to you. Glory to Ukraine and its heroes.
Hail the heroes. Greetings to you.
And, dear viewers, I draw your attention to the screens. Right now you see a QR code, the card number below it, and this is for fundraising. When we talk to servicemen, we try to help them. So this could be a wonderful way to start your day if you make a donation. Please tell us more about what we are raising funds for.
We are raising funds for spare parts and batteries for NRK, as well as for making power banks for the infantry. Right now, logistics routes are very complicated because the enemy is actively monitoring them using drones. There are waiters lying in ambush on the logistics routes. There are air attacks, so sometimes it's very difficult to deliver anything to the positions by car, and we actively use NRK. The enemy is hunting them too. We've also suffered losses. And battery packs are needed. The more such packs we have, the farther we can carry out missions. And we don't just carry out military missions, delivering everything necessary to our positions. We also handle humanitarian tasks, like providing food, medicine, and fuel to civilians in frontline settlements. Also, as you can imagine, there can never be too many power banks at infantry positions. They break, they discharge quickly, so we need more of them. So we kindly ask everyone to contribute whatever they can and help us close this fundraiser.
Ms. Olha, regarding the situation in your area. Russian troops are preparing for an offensive in the Kramatorsk direction. They are bringing in fuel, preparing equipment, and conducting aerial reconnaissance. This was reported by the spokesperson of the 11th Army Corps, Dmytro Zaporizhets. Is there any information about the size of the enemy grouping? What kind of equipment is this, and what is the enemy's likely plan?
Well, the enemy's plan is quite straightforward. They are attempting to capture the strategic cities of Kramatorsk and Sloviansk. And in this way, they are advancing toward Kramatorsk from different directions, trying to find weak spots in our defense. So far, we have not observed any buildup of heavy equipment in this direction. Only light-wheeled vehicles, equipment including motorcycles, which the enemy is currently using not for assaults, but for logistics or moving infantry. Furthermore, we are also aware that the enemy is currently trying to bolster the total number of its active servicemen in the Kramatorsk direction, attempting to bring all of its units up to at least 80% of their full strength. We are observing a certain personnel shortage on the enemy's side, because if earlier they used to receive reinforcements of 30 to 40 new recruits, now this number has dropped to 8 to 10. And the basic military training of such recruits is usually quite weak. Another tactic of the enemy is redeploying their units from one sector to another. For example, the enemy is trying to transfer one of their battalions from an adjacent direction into our area of responsibility in order to reinforce their sabotage and assault groups.
What specific actions is the enemy taking regarding the intensity of their assaults?
Well, the enemy's tactics have remained unchanged for several years now. They infiltrate in small groups of 2 or 3 people, and sometimes even try to slip through one infantryman at a time. They use this tactic to scatter the attention of our pilots, since it's mainly the pilots who eliminate the enemy's manpower. Most of these infiltrations are unsuccessful. We locate the enemy and quickly destroy them. The enemy is also starting to assault more actively the area between the settlements of Markovi and Maiska. We already know that there have been several assaults involving groups of 5 people who tried to wedge themselves between these 2 settlements, but so far without success. We are holding the defense.
Ms. Olha, what kind of Russian weaponry can already reach Kramatorsk?
The enemy is shelling Kramatorsk quite intensively with everything they have. For example, over the past 2 days, we've had about a dozen such attacks. Everything was flying, both Molnia and Geran-type UAVs, as well as FABs and KBs. A huge bomb hit the city center of Kramatorsk. Dozens of apartment buildings and private houses were damaged. There are dead and wounded. Also, now the enemy forces can reach the outskirts of Kramatorsk with artillery. During one of the recent shellings, a local kindergarten was severely damaged.
You already mentioned the logistics routes, but at the front line, I want to talk about those that are between cities and villages. Are they currently under enemy fire control? How are you managing to counter this?
Yes, the enemy is actively using FPV drones to control such logistics routes. Mostly these are FPV drones on fiber optics, which cannot be destroyed by electronic warfare systems. That's why either small arms are effective against them, or you need to monitor and search for example, Zduns, because Zduns are also drones on fiber optics. We try wherever possible to deliver by car. Drivers travel with electronic warfare systems in their vehicles, and drivers also carry pump-action shotguns so that if necessary they can shoot down such drones in areas where it is impossible to get through by car. We rely on the use of NRKs, and everything the infantry needs at the front line is delivered with the help of vampires. They operate every night, delivering food, water, power banks, and clothing to the infantry as needed. In other words, everything they ask for.
For example, in the neighboring Sloviansk direction, the Russians have started using their analogs of the Ukrainian vampire drones. Have you or the soldiers in your unit encountered them? What kind of threat could they pose to our defense forces?
Yes, for quite a long time, the Russians were unable to copy our vampire. I am well aware that they captured, so to speak, some of our drones while trying to copy this heavy bomber, but for quite a while they were unsuccessful in their efforts. But now the Russians have indeed started using a functional analog of our vampire drone. For now we still have the advantage in the use of heavy bombers. But if the Russians manage to put this into mass production, it will greatly complicate the defense of the Kramatorsk direction and, in general, the work of our armed forces.
Dear viewers, let me remind you that you can see a QR code and a card number on the screen. This is a fundraiser for NRK. They are truly multifunctional. Thanks to them, our defenders' lives are saved. Vital provisions and ammunition are delivered. And they can also serve as a form of infantry, so to speak, because we have repeatedly witnessed how they steadfastly held their defensive lines, fired back with their modules, or disrupted the enemy's strategic plans by detecting their logistical routes, those specific paths, and effectively intercepting those movements. That's why I want to urge you once again to join this fundraiser. We are raising funds for the 56th Separate Motorized Infantry Mariupol Brigade, which is holding the line in the Kramatorsk direction. And Ms. Olga, could you share the statistics on Russian losses in your sector? What have you managed to hit?
Well, I can share the statistics for the past week. Here is the latest information. Over the past week, the fighters of the 56th Brigade have killed or wounded about 50 Russian soldiers. We don't have any trophies in the form of heavy equipment because, as I already mentioned, we are not observing any accumulation of it in our brigade's area of responsibility. However, our pilots and artillery are actively targeting wheeled vehicles. These include cars and motorcycles. We are also destroying FPV drones and Krylo-type UAVs. Over the past week, we've captured more than 100 such trophies. We are also targeting the enemy's field depots, thereby destroying their provisions, clothing, and ammunition. We've had 4 such successful strikes in the past week.
We thank your unit for standing strong and defending us and for finding the time to talk with us. We were joined by Olha Kosenko, spokesperson for the 56th Separate Motorized Infantry Mariupol Brigade.